Hello, and thank you for joining today's webinar on transforming visibility into value. I'm Lois Ritarossi of High Rock Strategies, an industry consultant in printing and mailing. It's a pleasure to introduce our panel of experts who will be sharing their insights on postal matters. From GrayHair Software, we have Angelo Anagnostopoulos, the Vice President of Postal Affairs. From the Berkshire Company, we have Mark Fallon, President and CEO. And from the National Postal Forum, we have Maureen Goodman, the Executive Director. Both Angelo and Mark sit on the Mailers Technical Advisory Council, MTAC, and as industry experts, they are sought-after speakers for postal and mailing industry events. To go over our agenda today, our speakers are going to share their insights on 6 topics, including the National Postal Forum, informed visibility, changes in the USPS network, and the importance of address quality. If you can advance to the next slide, please. And the next slide. It's my pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Maureen Goodson from the National Postal Forum. So when we talk about what is going on in the industry and the theme connecting at the crossroads, we're going to focus today on informed visibility, being at the crossroads, and Maureen is going to share some insights as to why you should attend the National Postal Forum next June. Maureen?
Thank you very much, Lois, and thank you for the opportunity to promote the National Postal Forum in 2024. We just came off a very successful forum in Charlotte, and we're very excited to be back in the Crossroads of America in Indianapolis, Indiana, June 2nd through the 5th. We will be at the Indiana Convention Center with surrounding hotels. Today's webinar is just a sampling of all the educational opportunities we have at the National Postal Forum. We will have over 120 educational workshops, and many of those will be USPS officer-led sessions. We've got networking events that start on Sunday night all the way through the closing event at the Indiana Rooftop Ballroom on Wednesday evening, general sessions on Monday and Tuesday morning, hear directly from USPS executive leadership and also the Postmaster General on Monday morning. We have the largest exhibit hall floor in the mailing and shipping industry, and currently we are filling up that floor already in advance of our June meeting, so we're very excited about that. So registration and hotel accommodations are now open. Registration is open. And we want to give you the opportunity as participants on this webinar today to take advantage of an additional discount. So when you register, and if you select a 4-day registration, you'll be able to take an additional $100 off that registration using the code GH2024 in the optional discount code. If you have any problems with registering or you have any questions, info@npf.org is always your source to go to ask any questions. We also, during this time when you're registering, offer you the availability of another $100 discount if you book within the NPF hotel rooms and discounted rates. We currently have 6 NPF hotels, all connected to the Indiana Convention Center. So I encourage you to register early. These hotels will fill up. They did last year, and we expect them to do the exact same thing again this year. But we look forward to seeing you in June in Indianapolis, and thank you again for the opportunity to promote the forum. Thank you, Lois.
Thanks, Maureen. It really looks like it's going to be an exciting, action-packed event in a great city and a great location. We appreciate all the information and the discount codes. Before we jump into today's content, I'd like to remind all the attendees out there that both Mark and Angelo welcome your questions and love to share their thoughts and insights and expertise with you. So please use the Q&A section, and we will monitor the Q&A and answer some questions during the session, and we will have time at the end to answer your questions. So we're now going to jump into our first poll. Our first poll is, are you currently using informed visibility? And you have 3 choices. The poll is open. If you could please vote with the on-screen options. No, I am not. Yes, I'm using it with an internal resource, or yes, I'm using it with an external resource, a print service provider. We'd love to hear how many of you are using informed visibility. Mark, are the responses coming in?
It looks like it. So we should give everyone, let's say, 30 seconds.
Absolutely. There's been significant increase in using the Informed Visibility platform to really help clients provide the value in their mail. And as Mark and Angelo begin to talk about it, we like to take the pulse of the attendees that are with us today.
So Madison, could you share the results from the poll?
And the results are
No.
50% not using it. Mark, your comments on that?
Well, I think that's why we have to have webinars like this. Especially, I know Angelo is going to share how much informed visibility can impact so much of what you're doing.
Great. Well, we're pleased to see that over a third of you are over 47% of you are using it either internally or with one of your preferred partners in enhancing the value of your mail. So let's jump into informed visibility, our topic. Informed visibility at the center of the crossroads. And we have this great visual here. And we've all been on streets like that, in cars, walking, or on bikes. So Mark, what does it mean for informed visibility to be at the center of the crossroads?
Well, Lois, there's 4 key areas that form those crossroads that you see. And the first 2 are the USPS promotions and the USPS network changes. We're going to go in some detail because the promotions are one fantastic way for mailers to enhance their mail while lowering their cost. We'll also briefly discuss the mail growth initiatives as well. Now, at the same time that that's going on, the USPS network is going through a massive transformation as part of the Delivering for America plan. So the next few minutes, we're going to talk about how informed visibility can be used to maximize the impact of the promotion while minimizing the disruption of the network changes. And Angelo, I know you have some passion about the next 2 topics.
Yeah, I sure do. You also want to make sure that your mail gets delivered. It's important because mail that doesn't get delivered doesn't get responded to. And so, address quality to me is the third key area. And we'll be discussing that in a little bit more detail in a minute. And the fourth, of course, is, adding value to the enterprise and ensuring compliance. And we'll talk about that as well.
Wonderful. So our next poll is, are you planning on participating in any of the 2024 US promotions? We would appreciate your response in one of our 4 categories, 20 to 30% of the time, 40 to 50.
No, it's the wrong poll. Sorry.
Oops, wrong poll. That is the wrong poll.
Madison, can you change the poll, please?
Thank
There we
you.
go.
Are you planning on participating in any of the 2024 USPS promotions? Yes, no, or I'm not sure, I need more information. We'd like to hear from everyone out there. Certainly there's been growth in using the promotions, and there's some enhancements to the promotions for 2024. And Mark and I are always encouraging our clients to take advantage of the promotions, especially in light of the postage increases.
And what's really fantastic is that it is a very simple way, as we're going to share soon, to really enhance value.
Yes. And how is our voting going?
Well, it looks like we had 100% on the first one. So Madison, it's 12:10. If you could close the poll and let us see how people are doing.
Great. So 47% of the attendees are planning on using promotions. 45% are looking for more information, and some people are not in the game yet. So hopefully we can change some minds by sharing some very valuable information with you today.
Yeah, that's very encouraging because the Postal Service, I don't think, predicted that they would get that type of participation. So if we get that, that would be awesome.
It sure would. It would be wonderful. So let's dive into the US promotions. So, Mark, I mentioned that you and I are always strongly recommending that our customers in all categories take advantage of as many promotions as they can. So how have things changed and how are the promotions laid out for next year?
Well, it is a smart way to offset any postage rate increase and improve your mail. So the approved 2024 promotions, and what we've included here on the slide is the start date of the promotions. The first is the emerging and advanced technology promotion. And this is encouraging mailers to really innovate and adopt emerging technologies like augmented reality, mixed reality, virtual reality. There's a lot of reality. Video and print and mail integration with voice assistants. There's many different technologies. And because technologies often take longer to implement and require a lot of other people other than just the folks that work in print and mail, what the Postal Service is doing with this promotion only, and it's unique to 2024, is that mailers can select any rolling 6-month period in which to participate. So if you feel that the best time for you to use this is February through July, that can be your 6 months. If you feel it's July through December, that can be your 6 months. They do have to be continuous, but you get to choose that period. I think this is a great move by the Postal Service and will help more mailers participate in this promotion. So the tactile, sensory, and interactive promotion, this is for both first-class mail and USPS marketing mail. And this promotion encourages mailers to enhance the customer engagement through innovations in paper stock and substrates, different inks, interactive elements, and what's really cool today is the different finishing techniques. Registration actually opens next Friday, December 15th, and the promotion runs through July 31st. The personalized color trans promo promotion. This is a first-class mail promotion. And the purpose of this is for first-class mailers to highlight marketing messages through the use of color, dynamic variable print, and personalization. Registration for this also open next week and runs through July 31st. The Reply Mail IMBA promotion. And I know Angelo and I both are big on business reply mail. And this targets first-class QBRM, that's qualified business reply mail, letters and cards, and high-volume QBRM letters and cards. And you need to enroll in the IMBA program. That's the Intelligent Mail Barcode Accounting Program. And you'll receive a discount on qualified reply pieces. There are a lot of benefits to IMBA before this promotion became available, and this is really to help encourage more people to take advantage of this program. Registration opens in May and will run from July 1st to December 31st. The Informed Delivery promotion. Now, I am sure that everybody on this webinar is an Informed Delivery subscriber. And for both first-class mail and USPS marketing mail, this promotion encouraged mailers to use the USPS Informed Delivery program to enhance their mail pieces. This time of year, with the different catalogs coming in, many more of them are now using enhanced informed delivery. And as somebody who travels for a living, I love opening my phone and seeing what's waiting for me at home. Registration for this opens June 15th and runs August 1st through December 31st. And unique to this year, in a nod to the hard work of print and mail service providers, the eDoc submitters will also be eligible for a 0.5% incentive.
Great.
The retargeted mail promotion, remember, we're talking about how do we integrate mail with digital, and how can online retailers use mail to convert website visitors. So the retargeting promotion incentivizes marketers to send out personalized postcards to select website visits that didn't convert to a sale. And this is for first-class mail because that's what postcards are. And registration opens July 15th, 2024, and the promotion runs September 1st through November 30th.
So Angelo, how does informed visibility come into play with all of the promotions that the Postal Service has laid out for next year?
Yeah, I'd like to think that it's an integral part. When you look at these promotions, they not only offer financial incentives, they allow you to increase your response rates because you're putting something very unique into the mail. And we know that based on previous history that it's going to increase response rates. You can also tie some of these things to omni-channel campaigns. If you notice, a lot of these are integrated into the digital space and that, and there's a lot of opportunity there to be able to do that. So, as an example, Mark talked about informed delivery. It's a great promotion. One of the things that we get when we have customers participate in informed delivery is we get enhanced statistics on things like email open rates, as an example. When you combine that with the informed visibility data, you get some really powerful insights into customer behavior, campaign effectiveness, and you can tie things into additional social, digital, radio, other types of channels for a truly, omni-channel experience. The other thing, with IV is it also helps you understand, delivery statistics, especially when you're, spending a lot of money preparing some of this mail in order to be able to participate in some of these promotions. And it gives you insights and strategies so that you can better target whoever it is that you're trying to go to and making sure that, as an example, that your mail is deliverable.
So Angela, I think it's so important that the points that you've made about how can marketers be enabled to make better decisions, to leverage more data at an individual level for attribution to the mail as they engage across other channels, but also to really leverage data to how can they fine tune and improve their various campaigns. So Mark, there's new incentives in terms of the category of growth. Can you share with us some of the details to inform the audience of what the growth incentives are about?
So this is something that's brand new to our industry and is an exciting opportunity to help the Postal Service grow mail volumes. And so what the Postal Service is going to do for first class mail and USPS marketing mail is have an incentive where you will receive credit for volumes that exceed your total volumes for FY 2023. So it's pretty unique. And if you look at the slide, the incentive period is the calendar year, January through December 2024, but it's comparing it to your volumes in FY 2023, which is October 1, 2022 to September 30th, 2023. You must have 1 million pieces or more to participate. Now, you don't have to have had 1 million pieces in FY 2023, but you have to have at least that in 2024. And for mail volumes over that 1 million piece or over your volumes for 2023, you are going to get a 30% credit on the average postage spend that'll be applied to your 2025 postage. So hopefully that's clear. So it's FY20, there's a lot. And if you go to Postal Pro, there's a FAQ on this, but it's a really unique opportunity. The Postal Service has tried to do this before. I know Angelo has some insight on that. But this is, something new and something that mailers need to take a real hard look at.
So Angelo, how will informed visibility support large mailers who are looking to take advantage of this growth incentive?
Yeah, I think that's a very important question. And, a little bit more on this mail growth. I mean, it's a 30% discount. That's a lot of money to be able to use on future mailings. And, as the poll showed, I really hope that more than half of the people take advantage of this. Now, as far as how we can help, one of the first steps you have to go through with the mail growth incentive is you have to reconcile your volumes by CRID. And so if you were, let's say, as an example, tracking all of your mail with us, you would know those numbers. Now, we did, hear from a couple of the first people that attempted registration. that they had some issues, right? The Postal Service had either underestimated what their volume was or well overestimated their volumes. And it takes a lot of time to try to get to that point to try to figure it out, but you need a good baseline to make sure that, you know, you're showing growth in 24 so that then you can get the proper credit for that. The other thing, you know, as far as reporting in that, once it starts and you start to mail, you need to be able to reconcile, because at the end of the promotion or during periods of time where they're allowing you to use up the credit, you have to reconcile with the Postal Service and make sure that the numbers are right for the mail that you claim that, you know, you put into the mail stream. There's also ROI implications in that, to making sure that, you know, this additional volume that you're putting into the system, you're getting the right ROI. So a lot of the informed visibility and other data that gets collected will help you determine some of that. At the end, you know, let's say that you want to file an appeal, you want to, you know, you're saying you mailed more than the Postal Service has on record. Well, you need information to back that up. And so, you know, you have to be able to collect some of this information as you're mailing to use as evidence. So that's very important.
So it's a huge opportunity to save 30% on future mailings. And there's clearly some accounting and reconciliation that will be brand new tasks for mailers in kind of all categories. So our next big topic is changes at the USPS. So Mark, there's been all kinds of acronyms thrown about in describing some of the changes in the 10-year plan on some of the webinars from the Postal Service. And you know me, I'm an anti-acronym person. So can you explain how the changes impact mailers?
Sure, Lois. And as you know, because I come from the military, acronyms is how we talk. And I think, you know, it was interesting in preparing for this. One of the things that's very important is not to try to take acronyms from the old network and match them to the new network. You can kind of do that, but there is some very significant changes. So it's a lot easier to think, okay, what does the new ecosystem look like? And that's what I focus on. So under the Delivering for America plan, the change is really around the back end of the Postal Service, right? The inner workings, how they move packages and mail. And the major changes is this 3 new classes of processing facilities. And the really big change is the RPDC, which is the Regional Processing and Distribution Centers. And this is really, I would call, the heartbeat of the network. They will process all outgoing operations. The plant will sort and prep parcels down to 5-digit, and they'll be cross-docking the letters and flats at the 3-digit level. From there, the mail moved to the LPC, the local processing centers. Now, these places will sort letters and flats down to delivery point sequence or carrier route, right, depending upon type of mail, and they will cross-dock those 5-digit parcels that are coming from the RPDCs. Those move down to the sorting and delivering centers. For many bulk mailers, these are new destination entry points. At the S&DCs, they will sort parcels down to the carrier routes, and carriers will either start their routes at the S&DC, right? We've heard that for the last 18 months, and they're now going live, or mail will be cross-docked for those local delivery units that remain. So if you look at that, the graphic at the bottom, mail and packages are taking entirely new routes from entry to destination. And what that means is that transportation times will be different than what might have been experienced previously.
So in light of all these changes, Angelo, which are significant, how can mailers use informed visibility to really stay on top of the changes and understand what the regional impacts are as these new centers come online?
Yeah, so, as the Postal Service closes down annexes, surface transfer centers, network distribution centers, and as new facilities come online, there's often disruptions that happen during the transition period. And we've experienced that with the first large number of facilities that the Postal Service put in place. I think it's also worth mentioning that for the rest of the network that Mark was talking about, the Postal Service is in what's called emulation mode, where they're emulating the future environment, even with the existing facilities that they currently have today. And with such disruptions, it's really important to react when these things happen, and informed visibility is really the tool to do that with. The other thing that informed visibility can be used for is making adjustments to call center staff, so that if mail is being delayed or mail is being advanced, we've seen both. When you look at the tracking reports, you can adjust staff to make sure that you don't have people sitting around, or you don't have people waiting to speak to somebody on the phone. Let's say you're a retailer and you're trying to put some product in stock in the stores to coordinate with a sale for a flyer or catalog or something that you're sending out. You want to make sure that you time all of that correctly, and informed visibility is a key to making sure that you have the proper staffing in store and product in store, and that in order to accommodate customers that are walking through the door. One of the other big areas that we spend a lot of time in is helping our customers comply with federal and state regulations, especially if you're in the financial industry, if you're in the insurance industry. There are all kinds of regulations that you have to follow. And, if mail is late, as an example, a credit card company has to give you 21 days to pay your credit card bill. If it's late, that could cause you problems and fines. And so we help people monitor mail very, very closely. And then lastly, as mail gets stuck in the network, you could see that in the reporting, and you can call the Postal Service to try to get that moving along.
Well, lots of changes, lots of things to prepare for. So our next poll question is, on average, how likely are movers to notify the U.S. Postal Service of a recent address change? And we'd like you to put in the Q&A section. Oh, there is our poll. So do you think it's 20 to 30% of the time, 40 to 50% of the time, 65 to 75, or 85 to 95? And we think this is going to be the most interesting poll question of the webinar. So we welcome your answers. And if you work in the industry and you always send the post office an update when you move, you might not be typical. So as answers are coming in, because this is, as back to Angelo's point around address quality, where does good address quality come from? How much of it does directly get to the post office? And how can you make sure your addresses are good? So Madison, do we have a fair number of responses that have come in?
74%.
Wow. Okay. So 25% of you think 20 to 30% of the time. 48 think about half of movers report. Some of you are as pessimistic as some of us that only 25% of movers report to the post office. And some of you think that, people never do, 85 or think that they always do, 85 or 95% of the time. What's the real answer, Angelo?
So the real answer is 40 to 50%.
Excellent. We have a very well-informed group of attendees here with us today. So how do you get good addresses when only 40 or 50% of the time people are sending their good address change data to the post office? So Mark, let's dive a little bit more into address quality. You can close the poll, please. And I know this is a topic that you are so passionate about.
I am, and it's great. It's one of the things I think Angelo and I, one of the first times we met, that we talked about. So it's really the keystone to successful mail processing. If you don't have the right address, no matter how efficiently you created a piece or how beautifully designed a piece, if it doesn't get delivered, then it really doesn't do much for you. And with the software that's available today, mailers check addresses at multiple times in the life cycle. So whenever an address is entered by a customer service representative, you can have a call out and make sure that that address is correct. If a customer enters their address on a website, again, you can have a call out, an API call out that allows you to verify that that's a legitimate address. Then you also need to do that on a batch basis as well, because addresses change, zip codes change, zip plus fours change. So every 30 to 45 days, you should be running your addresses through some type of CAS software, and you're required, right, to do move update, which I'll talk about in a second. But then you can also check addresses as part of the creation of print. So you can pull out the addresses from a print file, send them to software, get it cleaned up, put in the right information, put in the intelligent mail barcode so that you can use IV. CAS software, so that's, you can use that. It's coding accuracy support system. That's for the proper formatting of the addresses and with the correct zip code information. And you need to use CAS software to get a full service IMB. For any prospect lists, the batch job should also include running against the NCOA link database. Using NCOA link is just one of the methods about being compliant with move update, and that has to be done every 95 days. Being compliant with postal regulations isn't really the most important reason for using CAS and NCOA link. Ensuring timely delivery of your customers' valuable information and reducing undeliverable and returned mail is much more important. The best designed content and the most efficient manager possible, it still needs to get to that correct addresses. Now, it's important to remember that software tools are just that, tools. Leaders have to use that tool as an aggressive approach towards changing the culture where address management is integral to the entire process.
So, Angelo, in light of all of the tasks for mailers out there, can you talk about the impact of informed visibility in conjunction with ACS and the Blue Earth services from the Postal Service?
Sure. So, we talked about before in the poll that, 40 to 50% of the people tell the Postal Service they moved. I know it's hard to believe that, some people don't want their bills to follow them when they move, but, it happens. But, that's, you don't have to leave it as is. You can use other tools in order to catch the other 50%. So as an example, GrayHair has a proprietary address database, and and we're not the only ones. There are other databases out there that can help you catch the rest. Because in the example where you might not want to tell, let's say, your bank that you moved, or somebody, because you don't want your bills to follow, you are going to tell somebody that you moved. Maybe your cable company or other, your cell phone company, et cetera. And so there's other ways we can collect some of this change of address data and use it. And it's always good, as I was saying before, a piece that goes to the wrong address is just wasted postage, wasted paper, and it's just not a good thing to do. One of the other things that you can use, during the mailing process is the address change service. And so you'll get some of this information, whether it's a change of address or whether it's a NIXI, meaning it's undeliverable, and the reason that it was undeliverable, so that the next time you go to mail, you can correct the addresses, and you have a pretty good idea that, some of the people have moved since the time that you've run, as Mark was saying, CAS and then COA. And one of the other things that you might want to do is, run CAS and NCOA as close to the mailing as possible to make sure that you're, correcting the addresses. Some of the things, you'll see here in the IV action items is we talk about 93 barcodes. So what is that? A 93 barcode is an indicator in the IV data that somebody has moved or the piece is being redirected somewhere. And so you can use that even before the ACS data comes in to be able to take additional actions. So as an example, You can, let's say you're an insurance company and you're only allowed to service certain states. You can detect if somebody has moved outside your service area, and you can take appropriate action. One of the other things that we use it extensively for, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later, is to do things like combat credit card fraud and theft if pieces are getting redirected after they're put into the mail. And then one of the other things that you can do is you can take this information. Let's say you have an email address or a phone number for your customer. You can call them and you could say, hey, it looks like you've moved or your mail is being redirected. Is that true? And then you can update your database right then and there. And then again, it's another way to combat fraud if you wanted to be able to do that. And then Lois, lastly, you were talking about Blue Earth. Sustainability is a pretty big topic. You have these green people all the time coming out and talking about mail, and we know that mail is very green. One of the nice things about that is there's different programs that you can participate in. One in particular is secure destruction. And so for first class mail, letters, and flats, if the piece is undeliverable, normally the Postal Service would return that to you. You can have them securely destroy it, and then you can get back data electronically rather than having to get physical returns and then having to deal with that. It's much better to get that as electronic data, and then you can take action and be very green.
It's such an excellent point. Mark and I have been in so many facilities and seen tubs and tubs and tubs of mail with yellow stickers all over them that sometimes end up in a shredder anyway, and getting data instead of mail that needs to be shredded, I think would benefit many organizations that are mailing regularly. So our next big topic is pulling together everything you've shared about informed visibility and address quality and the promotions to really what is the impact across the enterprise, people who are mailing regularly, whether it's first class or marketing mail. So Mark, we know mail is a foundation in terms of the ecosystem, and the omni-channel world is here to stay as consumers interact with brands in a variety of channels on a variety of devices. But can you talk about the specifics of informed visibility and how it impacts the total view from an enterprise perspective?
Sure. And when we were talking about communicating with customers, marketers, account managers, service bureaus need to remember it's not physical or digital, it's physical and digital. And informed visibility is really the bridge between those two worlds. Successful campaigns, as you just talked about, integrate multiple methods of communication: physical mail, email, social media, SMS texting, online messaging. They all come together. And a key component of that is the timing of those messages. You want to make sure you reinforce them at the right time. And so when you get that information back from IV, corporations can then coordinate those digital messages so that perhaps I get that email the day after I received a mail piece. So now I've seen the mail piece in informed delivery, I've touched the physical mail piece, and now we get an email saying, hey, you want to buy that new telescope. So also by studying the timeliness of deliveries, there was a question in the Q&A about, can I use IV to check service levels? Yes, that's one of the most important things for you to monitor the timeliness of your deliveries. So by using that, companies can determine when they should enter mail into the Postal Service and perhaps where they should enter mail into the Postal Service. So perhaps you're having mail today printed in Chicago. Perhaps you want to have it printed in Chicago in Phoenix or Chicago in Florida, depending upon how quickly you need to get those pieces into your customers' hands. So, and which vendors are performing better? You can see that through IV. You can actually use IV to measure your service providers, because the entry scans, you now have evidence of when the mail is actually deposited with the Postal Service. Service level agreements are much better monitored thanks to the information from IV. And similarly, for those managers, operations managers that have inbound mail, I was reading an article this week about using informed visibility on business reply envelopes. And you could use them on CRM, courtesy reply mail as well. You'll be able to have an insight of what is arriving, when is it coming in, is there a spike in volumes? Angelo was talking about preparing customer service. You can prepare your inbound mail staff to be proactive and ensure much better performance. In today's world, data-driven decisions mean better decisions. And with informed visibility, the enterprise data lakes are getting filled with actionable information.
It's such an important point, Mark, and that there used to be such silos that we always observe between marketing and customer operations and call centers and compliance and IT. And now with the focus on customer experience, all those communications have to function and share information across the enterprise. So Angelo, Mark and I know that GrayHair has many customers who see such value in using your software. And I think it would be so important for the audience for you to share some success stories, some things that have been impactful in leveraging software to really get the benefit across their campaigns.
Sure. I mean, we could spend hours talking about case studies and the value that informed visibility, address quality, and other things that we talked about today, make an impact for our customers. So let's talk a little bit about two particular case studies that kind of illustrate some of the uses of this particular data. So in this first one, one of our large nonprofit customers came to us and said, we have two goals. The first goal is we want to improve customer satisfaction. Customer experience is a big thing now. Well, it's been a big thing for a while, but it's even more important because that could differentiate you between a customer, and that could also keep a customer very happy. And the other thing that they wanted to do was to be able to reduce the expense of their call center calls regarding membership card inquiries, like where's my membership card, because this particular membership card is tied to discounts all over the place, and some people want to make sure that they get it right away so that they can take advantage of some of the discounts that that membership provides. And so one of the things that we did was we helped the customer implement a way for customers to know where their cards are at any given time. If you think about it, it's kind of like Domino's, right? The pizza tracker, where it's where you're saying, okay, now your card has been produced, your card is on its way to the Postal Service, it reached the Postal Service, and in a very simple way, you allow the customer to self-serve and to be able to figure out where their credit card is at any given time. And so what was the result of that? The result of that was a 97% reduction in membership card calls, resulting in major savings for the customer. That's a big number. And when we saw that, it was pretty shocking, because nowadays I think a lot of people would rather self-serve and get this information or get it through an email or some other method rather than having to call a call center and then sitting on hold. And I think Mark was the one that gave me the statistic at 12 to 13 bucks a call. That adds up when people are calling your call center. This was a pretty big savings for them. All right, so let's talk about one more. And so this next one is around fraud, and I mentioned it a little bit previously, and this mainly deals with financial services, although fraud could be committed in any number of ways. And as we know and as we read in the news, fraud is on the rise at an exponential rate. And these scammers that are out there causing all of this fraud in that, they're getting much more sophisticated every day. They're using much better technology and computers and all that to commit this type of fraud. And every time somebody figures it out, they just come up with some type of a new method and some new way to be able to scam people out of their money. And so using tools like we talked about, informed visibility, address change service, ACS, allows you to take some proactive measures to greatly reduce, things like credit card theft or check theft and other things that get intercepted either as the mail is going to the Postal Service, within the Postal Service, it getting misdelivered or delivered to the wrong address, etc. And so one of the things that you can do as an example, and let's use the credit card example, is you can turn on enhanced activation so that when somebody tries to activate the card, instead of just dialing the 800 number and it says your card is active, it might route you to a call center where they ask you additional questions to make sure that you are the person who requested that credit card and you're not a fraudster out there. And so, for one of our customers, I mean, it resulted in millions and millions of dollars in fraud prevention, because that's just money that they have to write off, because it's not like, in most cases that they could find the person that committed that fraud and be able to recover some of that money. So it's very, very important to be able to use these type of tools for these types of purposes.
Well, those are two very impactful success stories on leveraging data and leveraging information coming through informed visibility and better software to really have an impact on the business, a demonstrated financial impact and a demonstrated value to the customers. So thank you for sharing those. So Mark, I know lots of questions have come in that you've answered. Do you want to share with us some of the questions so the whole audience can hear some of the other insights you've shared?
I will, but there was one question I want to verify the answer, and I really trust Angelo as being an expert on this more than me. But the very last question, Angelo, was how does IV provide transparency for parcel movements such as BPM? And my response was IV currently is only for first-class mail, marketing mail, and periodicals. Is that correct?
Yeah, so bound printed matter is one of these classes of mail that doesn't get a lot of attention. It also doesn't get on a lot of automation either. So it's one of those areas where the Postal Service isn't paying attention to it. We don't really get tracking data to be able to do that. So it's just one of these areas that's a little bit difficult to do. And depending upon what bound printed matter you're talking about, if you're talking about bound printed matter books, that uses an intelligent mail barcode, so there is maybe some opportunity there. And then you can also have bound printed matter parcels. I think those are much better tracked than the bound printed matter flats.
So there was a question early on about does the Postal Service ask for input from MTAC and the industry as far as determination of promotions each year? They actually have a page on Postal Pro where you can submit ideas for incentives. So or promotions rather. The second part of the question, because this one, it would be too long for me to type. It'd be easy for me to say was, it seems like the growth incentive lacked the involvement outside the Postal Service. Growth incentives have been talked about for years, right? So the Postal Service has engaged industry that way. But when the Postal Service creates a specific program, it kind of like the doors, I almost have to close, right? And then they reopen when they have the details. So as far as the specifics about how it was laid out, yes, that's inside the Postal Service. But I know there's been talk about growth incentives going back to the to previous Postmaster General. Angela, do you have any comment on that? Or
sure. I mean, many years ago there was such a thing. It was called a summer sale, and that had some limited success, and so that worked out pretty well. And we're hoping that this one just works out so much better.
And there was several questions on the growth incentive, and I should have emphasized this. The growth incentive is limited to mail owners, right? So it's not mail service providers, it's mail owners. And mail owners who use multiple service providers, you have to, this is what Angela was talking about, where IV comes in really handy, is allows you to track all of your volumes across all your service providers, including your in-plant as well. And I think...
Mark, can you share the answer to the question about the destruction versus Blue Earth?
Sure. So Blue Earth is the brand name for secure destruction. So, and I think actually...
So the marketing people won.
The marketing people won. And Tom Day, who's currently now a postal regulatory commissioner, I believe was the person that came up with that name, or it was under his, he ran that initial program. So the owner is now still around, which is, or he's back, I guess I should say. So it's just a brand name. And the last part, there was several different questions around informed visibility and monitoring things through the new network. And I thought Angelo explained it well, but just to reinforce, as the network rolls out, yes, there still will be scans, whether it's from an LDC to an RPDC to an SNDC. You should be seeing those scans, and that is really important. As far as tying that to postage rates, the new titles are not in the current rate case. We were told at the November MTAC, or October MTAC, I'm sorry, that the July rate increase will have the new entry points with their correct names.
Yeah, the
Excellent.
Postal Service wanted to get, so many of them up before they started changing some of the nomenclature. And, as I said before, they're emulating the new network, even with the existing old facilities and old facility names as well. So it's kind of really important to, pay attention to what's going on, especially as this network evolves.
Are there any new questions to respond to?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Well, we'd like to thank everyone who registered and everyone who attended and everyone who asked questions. We appreciate your time and attention. Everyone who's registered will receive a replay of the webinar. And we wish you happy holidays and hope to see you at the National Postal Forum. Contact information is on this last slide. Please feel free to reach out to Mark and or Angelo at GrayHair or the Berkshire Company.